Spurs focused on their all-Premier League, Europa League final against Manchester United in 10 days' time. If Ange Postecoglou's side win, it would be their first European title in 41 years. So both sides, Keith, bidding to salvage something from this season. Who needs the victory in the Europa League the most, Manchester United or Spurs?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's so difficult. Look, I think Spurs need it because they just need to get the monkey off the back and win a trophy, don't they? I think Manchester United probably need to win it to get some momentum into next season, and something that we've touched on already, qualifying for the Champions League gives them that power in the transfer market in the summer. Now, that would obviously give the same power to Spurs, but I just feel, looking at both squads, I actually think the Spurs squad's in a better place now. Obviously, they've not done well in the league this season. I think a lot of that has been down to a crippling injury list, but I think if Ange looks at his squad, he's probably fairly happy with it the way it is just now. I know he's missing a couple of players, James Maddison being one of those, but I think you look at the squad, it's strong, and I think they will do better in the league next season. I think Manchester United needs an absolute overhaul in the summer, so they need Champions League to allow them to attract top level players, but then Spurs need to win it just to win a trophy. Honestly, I can't answer it. They've both had such poor seasons in the league. I cannot call it, but I do believe in fate a little bit, I have to say. And Ange has obviously said a couple of times he always wins in his second season.
Wouldn't that be vindication for those comments, though, if he does get it? I think he could play that on a loudspeaker to everyone when he comes in. Yeah. I always win a trophy.
So I think he'd do a lap of honour of the Tottenham training ground, the press room.
Hopefully not in his thongs.
Exactly, yeah, indeed. But listen, I think it's interesting because Man United, they are going to back Amorim in the summer transfer window regardless. So Jim Ratcliffe gave that interview with Gary where he said, look, this is where we want to be. Their stated aim is to win trophies and compete at the top of the Premier League. Tottenham's is what, you know, we've had Hugo Lloris talking about the celebration, triumphalism around just getting to the Champions League final rather than winning it. We had Conte, those famous comments after the Southampton game before he left the club as well. And Jose Mourinho has also been quite scathing in some respects about the fact that he doesn't see them as a club that actually wants to push the boat out in a way that Manchester United would do and go and win something. And if you look at all the managers that have left, the Telegraph got a good piece today. They've all said that they've all gone on to better things. Even Nuno, who didn't look like a good fit, is with a Nottingham Forest side pushing for European football.
Looks great.
And so as far as Tottenham are concerned, they need to win it, because if they want to achieve what, you know, if they want to get into the Champions League places, it would be a good salvation, redemption for what has been a poor season. But I think as far as Amorim is concerned, whether he wins it or not, Man United are going to back him.
OK, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, we heard from Ange this week, and he did get a little bit spiky with journalists that kind of compared the domestic season between themselves and Manchester United. What do you make of his demeanour? Because you're in press conferences a lot. What do you? I know you're not potentially in his press conference, but what do you make of his demeanour with him?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Ange a couple of times when he was at Celtic before, and in a couple of Tottenham matches. Firstly, I think he made a good point during the week there. Like, I think that was a really good point, because he was getting asked about Manchester United, and it was like, look, let's talk about what this means to Spurs. So I think he defended himself well there. I think he's a very engaging character. He's great to listen to in the build-up to a game, at a press conference the day before, or in his pre-match interviews. I just don't think he deals too well with the stress of a defeat. He's a bad loser, but, you know, show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. So he's a bad loser, and, you know, sometimes he doesn't come across too well in some of his post-match interviews. But that's just his personality.
I'm in two minds with Ange, because listen, I've been on this show before. I'm a big Ange fan, and I've even argued with friends who say, well, you know, he's always arguing with the media, but what do you do if you're in his position? Everyone has a view on you. Some of it quite scathing, some of it not particularly complimentary, and yet, you know, do you suck it all up, or do you go out and do you defend yourself? So Alex used to defend himself all the time, and he's a national treasure. You know, why can't Ange Postecoglou go out and say, well, listen, you've got your view on me, this is what I think of your comments? Because that's not just directed at, to be honest with you, the media that cover him are very balanced, and I know a lot of those guys who are in that press room. I think he takes issue with a lot of what the pundits think of him. And, you know, they're all professionals. You can almost let them go at each other in some respects. But he has a long track record stretching back to his time in Scotland, in Australia, he speaks up for himself. It's not any different now that he's in England. He is a guy who defends himself, and I say more power to him.
He's had to sort of fight and scratch to get to where he is. You know, he's gone round the houses to get to Spurs, to get to the Premier League. You know, managed in Japan, you know, started at the lower levels in Australia, been up in Scotland, and it's great to see a success story like that, and great to see that Spurs have given him an opportunity. And what we want to see in our game is characters. We want characters, and he is one of those. It's just sometimes a difficult watching some of his post-match interviews when they've lost at home to Ipswich or something, and he's really down.
There's a terrific one on, if you go onto YouTube, there's a terrific interview where there's one pundit who basically said he should have been relieved of one of his posts when he was in Australia. And he gives it back, and you know, they're in a split screen and they're going at each other, and that is who he is. He doesn't manage. He's not a shrinking violet. He's not the sort of person to just sit back and take it. And I say that's great. And
there's some amazing videos of his team talks as well. I don't know if you've seen these, but the way he puts himself across. And if you're a player in that dressing room, you want to play for him. And that'll hold him in good stead going into this final, because I'd imagine one of those rousing team talks will bear fruit.
That'd be interesting, won't it? In terms of Manchester United, they face West Ham today, and Paul Scholes was talking midweek, you know, about their trophy history, basically. Do you think that will give them the edge, potentially, in this match against Spurs? Can they look back on history or not at all?
I think they've just got a winning mentality, and it's ridiculous saying that after the season that they've had, but you look how bad they've been the last couple of years. They've won the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. They're still winning trophies despite being as bad as what they have been, and that is a mentality thing, and I think that will help them going into the final. And you've got players in your team like Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, winners, you know how to get over the line. That will hold them in good stead going into the final. I do think, although I think Spurs have got a better team, they've got winners to get them over the line, and that is just why I can't call this final. It's actually, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's going to be intriguing. But yeah, Manchester United do have the winners in that dressing room, and that might help them on the night. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what happens. You were talking about attracting players. I think one player who's going to benefit potentially if they do get the win and get the Champions League football is Casemiro. 25% raise he gets automatically, just for him, if they get Champions League
football. If you've got his agent's number, please pass it on, because
I know.
He's done a terrific...
But arguably he's done the job in order to get them there as well. But I'm guessing, you know, they might be thinking, hang on a minute, well, then we've got somebody on their books that, you know, warrants a huge salary again.
Well, yeah, and for where Amorim wants to go, you do want winners, either in the team squad or on the backroom staff side. There might well be a future for him, but if that money goes up, that's a problem. It's a weird problem, isn't it? Because they'll be in the Champions League and he will have helped them, but they've got another huge player who is not getting any younger, who is getting a huge amount of wages. So that's going to be a difficult one to wrestle with, and it's symptomatic of the problem they have at Manchester United. When you ask about who needs it not more, Man United need it massively, because otherwise they are stuck with a huge squad of players to whom they are paying big money, who are not playing at the elite level, and that's a problem for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Play Manchester United in an all-English Europa League final in Bilbao. Both were convincing winners on aggregate in their semi-final ties. Both have the chance to redeem miserable Premier League campaigns by winning a major European trophy. Well, let's start off with Spurs. They won 2-0 away at Norwegian side Bodo Glimt to go through 5-1 on aggregate. After a goalless first half, Dominic Solanke put Tottenham ahead before Pedro Porro made it 2 after an intended cross flew into the top corner. And after all the talk of an artificial pitch and tricky conditions inside the Arctic Circle, well, Spurs were comfortable on the night. 6 years on from their unforgettable win over Ajax in the semi-finals of the Champions League. And of course, that also led to an all-English final against Liverpool. Ange Postecoglou famously said he always wins something in his second season. And now, despite sitting 15th in the Premier League table, Spurs are one game away from achieving that dream. OK, well, Stephen Kelly was watching this one for us here in the studio. As comfortable as the scoreline suggests? Nervy, or what did you make of it overall?
It was actually. I was kind of... The anticipation going into this game, the record that they have at home, you're fearful, the pitch, all these things culminating in Tottenham. You know, I know they had a 3-1 lead, but you're fearful that if they get an early goal, could this be, you know, a really tight, contested match, especially the fact that they've beaten Lazio and Celtic and, Panathinaikos all on their home turf over the last few years, so you know it's going to be tough. But Tottenham made it look easy. They didn't really struggle defensively, so solid. And Bentancur and Bissouma middle of the park, and Bissouma I think has struggled for a lot of parts of the season, and he was excellent. Bentancur struggled through injury, but back to what his best was. Two fullbacks staying intact, Romero and Van de Ven, excellent at the back together, and it was just a really assured, comfortable performance, and I think they made it look easier than what it could have been. So yeah, really, really happy with the way I went in the final.
Dominic Solanke seems to be just picking up a bit of momentum now. More comfortable in the Spurs shirt, perhaps. That very high price tag, seems to have sort of been earned back with some crucial goals, and you needed that goal to settle the nerves.
Yeah, I think for Solanke as well, for every forward, goals is what's important for their confidence, for the team. They're judged on that. But his work he does off the ball, for what he does for the team, is being brilliant. The way he presses, today they played a little bit longer, weren't so passing through the lines, ball going up to him, and just forced errors on their side. And I think, through the whole game, I think he was excellent. I think the last few games, he runs himself ragged every match, and his reward is the goals. He's got a couple of penalties in the build-up to this match, and then the goal from open play today was pounce in the box, really good, reactive finish from him. So yeah, he's been a really important player, and the fact that he was fit, you wrap him in cotton wool going to that final. I don't think Tottenham can take any risks with those starters between now and their season. The Premier League is done. They're going to finish 17th, 15th, 14th. It's not going to have a huge impact on their season. This is their season, and those players all have to come through it.
I'll come back to that point in a second. Christian Romero, in terms of his contribution for that goal, seemed to be in the air an awful long time. That, for me, was critical, wasn't it? He's captain, leads by example, needs to have an impact.
Yeah, huge moment from him. And I think his discipline in the game was excellent. In the last match, he showed a glimpse of what he can go over that line, but he always finds that fine margins, and today his performance was excellent. A lot of rumours, a lot of circulation about where he's going to be next season, but he looked like the man committed to Tottenham, at least for this cause, and has a wonderful header to put Romero in, gets up really early far post, knocks it back down to a dangerous area, and it's a great finish from Solanke. But yeah, him and Van de Ven, it is a wonderful partnership. It's just we haven't seen it often enough this season because they've both been injured.
Yeah, we'll come back to you, Stephen, in a moment, but let's just tell you about how Tottenham have fared in previous European finals. Won the Commonwealth Cup against Atletico 1963, long time ago, and then UEFA Cup twice against Wolves 1972, against Anderlecht 1984, but also lost two finals, UEFA Cup against Feyenoord in 1974, and of course the big one only 6 seasons ago, the Champions League final in Madrid against Liverpool. And of course we now have a situation where they will now face another English team, and once again it will be in Spain. The reason is that Manchester United await Spurs in the final. They came from behind to beat Athletic Club 4-1 on the night at Old Trafford, 7-1 on aggregate. United given a bit of a scare in the first half when Ernesto Valverde's side took the lead. A loose pass from Harry Maguire led to a curling effort from Mikel Jauregui, which beat Andre Onana. After half-time, Mason Mount came off the bench and equalised for United. Very lovely, deft, Cruyff-turned curling finish into the bottom right-hand corner. Mount's first goal at Old Trafford. 8 minutes later, United went ahead on the night. Bruno Fernandes' free kick headed in by Casemiro to make it 2-1. And just before full-time, Amad Diallo set up Rasmus Højlund to make it 3-1. Before then, Mount got in on the act again, producing a stunning long-range finish into an empty net as it finished 4-1. So United into the final in Bilbao. It is their third final in 3 years. Ruben Amorim, who has seen his team drop to 15th in the Premier League, has the chance to win a major European trophy just 6 months since taking over from Erik ten Hag. Mike Phelan was watching this one with us. And again, the scoreline 7-1 suggests this was easy over the two legs for United. Perhaps not the full picture.
Well, the scoreline was convincing.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. They did the damage away from home in a two-legged competition. 3-0 should be comfortable. But in that first 60-70 minutes, it was all really, it was all athletic. And it's a credit to them. They actually came with a good game plan. They were fearless. They got at United, and they made United, work for it. There was a bit of chaos in that defence at times, but United was so wasteful at times as well going forward. Had a couple of opportunities. I think up to the substitutions, one attempt on goal, and then the substitution changed it. Amad and obviously Mount changed the course of the game. It just got United a little bit further up the field. Obviously, you know, the opposition have to gamble a little bit if they want to really take something from the game. But all credit to United, they stuck to the task and they're in the final, and that was everything they've been asked to do, is get to this final. And not only that, they've got to go and win it. You know, it's just in their court now. And the opposition's going to be Tottenham, who have played well against United in the past.
Just quickly on a couple of players, I mean, particularly Mason Mount, how personally delighted are you for him? Because he's had such a tough time at Old Trafford. And 2 goals that show the class of the player, you know, back from when he was, you know, one of the first names on the team sheet for Gareth Southgate there with England, and, you know, Chelsea doing some great things.
The game's about players, and it's about big players turning up at the right time to do what they do best. And obviously he's been patient, he's been unlucky. You know, it hasn't been the greatest season for him, going to a new club and trying to settle in there, injuries. But to find his form right now and to contribute to 2 goals in a semi-final is exceptional. That just shows you, you know, he's got a strong mindset and a good will behind him to want to do it, to want to perform. So, you know, I think he takes a lot of credit out of that. The interesting bit now is where it leaves his manager as far as, does he get in the team? You know, I would think that Mount possibly now will see the season out, hopefully be in the team for the final. That'll be what he'll be, that's the question he's asking. And also Ahmad, I think Ahmad has justification as well, because he is a bright spot when he comes onto the field. Yeah. I must say, the crowd were always with United. Even though they may have been a bit edgy at times, they were always there with them.
But I think when you're 3-0 up, that's what you would expect.
Yeah, but it's a night at Old Trafford again where the supporters are different, a different class in a European game. And they'll travel well, they'll look forward to the final. It's something like, you know, a bit of silver lining over the season. And they'll look forward to the final. It will be a challenge, but they'll look forward to it.
Stephen was mentioned before, for Tottenham, you sort of wrap those first-team starters up in cotton wool. What do you think Ruben Amorim is going to do in the games that remain in the Premier League campaign and thinking about the Europa League final? Will he just simply be resting them or giving them some minutes, really trying to manage that, keep momentum but not expend too much energy?
Well, I think the ones that came on as subs, he will look to start them now and give them 90 minutes. I think that might be something you have to think about. He'll want everybody available with minutes under the belt in order to be ready for that final now. So yeah, I think he'll chop and change the team. Players will be fingers crossed that they get through it and get to that final. But all attention will be now on the final. Everything else doesn't matter, it's just the final. And I think, again, for both managers are in the same position, having had definitely a poor season, both clubs. Yeah. They've got this little cherry, this little reward to look forward to, and it's going to be winner takes all.
Yeah. It's the season saver in the Basque Country, isn't it? Got a little idea for you guys, if you're up for it. Seeing as it is Manchester United against Tottenham Hotspur in this Europa League final in Bilbao later this month, I would like you, if you would be so kind, in 30 seconds each to tell me why your club will win that Europa League final. Yes, I knew I'd get a right smile or a laugh out of that. So, OK, tell you what, Mike, we're going to start off with you. I'll set my timer going and you can tell me why you think Manchester United have got a compelling case to win it. Go.
I think United have worked so hard in this competition to get to this final, and the one eye on the game is going to be about Champions League football. I think they have that quality to get there. It has definitely been the competition for them this year. And I think they've got goal scorers in the team. They've got creativity, they've got goal scorers, and that's why I think they could go all the way and win this tournament.
With 6 seconds to spare, Mike, couldn't you? You could have added some extra detail, but that's all good. It's all good. We'll take it. OK, Stephen, why will Spurs finally lift a first major trophy since 2008?
I think the desperation to actually get that over the line is massive at Tottenham. I think the willingness to want to go do it. They've shown a resilience defensively, shown a side of the game that we haven't seen under Ange. Solanke being in form, back four, back together. I think they make themselves a really tough team. I get Maddison's going to be out, but when you have Kulusevski come back in the front, put an absolute shift today as well. I think they've got enough players, and we've shown in the past we can beat United. And just to throw Ange again, he always wins a trophy in his second season, so that's what I'm going to end on that.
Wow.
They look to reach the final. They hold a 3-0 lead going into the semi-final second leg against Athletic Club at Old Trafford. Tomorrow, Ruben Amorim has been speaking in his pre-match news conference in the last hour, including our own reporter, Daniel Kahn. Good afternoon. Amorim fully under understanding what is at stake tomorrow. Some interesting comments today about United and if they do win this competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ruben Amorim is under no illusions, and he has repeatedly said this over the last month or so as Manchester United have progressed through the Europa League, that if they are to win this trophy, it would not in any way mean that Manchester United have had a good season. Of course, when you look at the inconsistency of results in the league form, they're now 15th. They really struggled to string together consistent results in the Premier League. However, what the Europa League has represented for Manchester United this season is an opportunity to play in Europe's elite competition next season in the Champions League, but also, and we can't say it enough, just the financial incentive it means for Manchester United, what it means in terms of flexibility for the squad Ruben Amorim will try to construct in the summer as he looks to take charge of his first full pre-season and first full season in charge of Manchester United. But as I mentioned, he has to get past Athletic Club first, and yes, they are 3-0 up from the first leg after a very impressive away performance last week, but this is also United side who's conceded many a lead in the last 12 months. You just look at the FA Cup semi-finals last season against Coventry, they were pinned back from 3-0 up to 3-3, so of course you don't want a kind of a reconnection of that happening once again. And Ruben Amorim, when asked just how good this United side has progressed, especially since his comments when he called them one of the worst sides in Manchester United's history, it was very interesting to hear what he had to say on reflection.
I think you have to see the quotes in the moment, so things can change. And for me, in that moment, and if you look to Premier League, I think we are the worst. Since I arrived, we are the worst team in terms of the results in Premier League. That is my idea. In the end of this season, we can be the worst team in Premier League in history with a European title. So we will not change nothing. We know that this season was really disappointed for everybody. Nothing is going to change. So in that moment, sometimes I have to think a little bit more, but I felt that, and I still feel that this season was the worst in the, I don't know in history, but for sure in the last, 50 years, I don't know. I have no idea. We will have to suffer a little bit to go to the final, and we are ready to suffer, and we need to be better in the small details in this game. You have to win it. As a manager, it's not like the same as a player. You want to play, you want to enjoy. When you are a manager, you have to win it, because if you lose in the final, it will hurt even more, especially in this kind of season. So we have to win it, but for that we need to focus on the semi-final.
So interesting there that he says that the worst Premier League team ever to win a European trophy, if they do it, they'd be even worse without Bruno Fernandes this season. What's he had to say, Amorim, about his captain's future?
Yeah, very interesting, Rob, because Bruno Fernandes, in the last 24, 48 hours, his future has been brought up once again after being brought up multiple times this season. And Manchester United's captain, who has 19 goals, 18 assists in all competitions. You're right to ask there, where would United be without him? But in the last day or so, there's been widely reported that teams in Saudi Arabia are very interested in perhaps bringing Bruno Fernandes to their league in the summer. And we're talking about mouth-watering numbers. Reportedly, they want to propose to the Manchester United captain. And when the Manchester United manager, Ruben Amorim, who is very close to his captain, has repeatedly backed him this season, he was asked just about his future for his captain, and he was pretty adamant in his response as well.
I think it's easy to understand that, not just because of the numbers, but the way he plays, the importance that he has during his 5 years, I think, here. He's a top player. We need the top players. He's a leader. He's the captain. So he's really important. It's normal that there's a lot of clubs that want a player like Bruno, like Garnacho, like others, but we want to keep the best players. And Bruno is clearly one of the top players in the world. So our idea didn't change. We want Bruno here.
So that's Bruno Fernandes' future. What about Alejandro Garnacho's?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Well, this was a player who was once again linked with a move away in January, you know, linked with the likes of Chelsea, but also Napoli, because we know Manchester United have to raise funds in this present moment when they look to bring in players. But actually, look at Alejandro Garnacho, especially in recent weeks. Look what he did on Sunday against Brentford, an assist for Mason Mount and a fantastic goal for United. Second, a 1-2 put in the top bins off the back of that. And I think he's someone who perhaps even he admitted this afternoon struggled when Ruben Amorim first came in halfway through the season. Where would he fit in this 3-4-2-1 system as a 10? But actually he said that he's really learnt a lot about himself. But again, questions around his future. Is it at Old Trafford and Manchester United, having come here as a teenager? Well, he had a pretty adamant response as well to the press this afternoon.
Obviously, as a footballer, you always gonna read and listen some rumors about the future. But I have contract here until 2028, so I'm happy here.
The manager obviously took you out of the team against Manchester City a few months ago, but you've been in every squad since then. Have you done anything differently in terms of the way you approach games, training? Because it's been clear to everyone watching you how hard-working you are.
Yeah, obviously we know you have to work hard to be even in the squad, and then I just have to train well every day, and I will be available for all the games.
Us now. David, we're going to talk all Arsenal. We're going to start with one of their centre-halves who it looks positive signs that he's going to stay.
Yeah, it's a big period for Arsenal, Rebecca, given their elimination from the Champions League on Wednesday and also their position in the Premier League. Mikel Arteta has been at the club for a long time now, and there's a feeling it's time to deliver, certainly next season. I'll start with William Celiba. I broke the news yesterday that Arsenal have opened talks with him over a new contract. He's approaching the final 24 months of a 4-year contract that was signed in 2023. And therefore, this is normally the point at which clubs look to renew their best players or sell them. They certainly don't want to sell Celiba, they want to renew him. And so their sporting director, Andrea Berta, has initiated discussions with William Celiba's representatives. There have been no offers so far, but that's only a matter of time. It will follow in due course as Arsenal look to intensify these conversations and, in their mind, reach an agreement. Now, Celiba is being pursued by Real Madrid. They really would like to sign him. He would be ideal for them and their president, Florentino Perez. However, Arsenal will do all they can to keep hold of him. If he does leave the Emirates Stadium, I think Real Madrid is his most probable destination, despite the fact that he would have all manner of suitors. He's only going to be playing his career at the top. But Arsenal, of course, will have other ideas about that. The thing in this is that he will want a deal that is reflecting his elevated status, one of the leading central defenders in the Premier League and beyond. He's a starter for the French national team quite often as well. So there's no guarantee how this will finish. But at Arsenal, there is great determination to make sure that William Celiba is with them for a long time to come. He is happy at the club and in London, so that bodes well, but they will have to get the terms of this proposed deal right. It may take some time, but it's a big matter on their in-tray.
Well, David, securing Celiba is one thing. Getting a striker, of course, is another, and that is going to be what all eyes are on this summer.
Arsenal's recruitment plans are vast, and at the top of the list is a number 9. Now, there are fewer of them in the market than they would like. There's an imbalance in supply and demand, but there are some options. We've been talking for so long about Alexander Isak. Of course, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta really like him, but I don't think that's realistic for them or probably for anybody else. Let's see if Newcastle finish in the Champions League or not. Even if they don't and he's available for sale, it will be a huge price, and I don't think that is realistic. So then they look at the likes of Benjamin Sesko. They've done a lot of work on, but I do think they have some reservations around him, maybe on the price, maybe on the player. Let's see. He remains in the mix, as does Victor Gyökeres of Sporting Lisbon. Huge reports from myself and others in recent months on him. He's a player their sporting director, Andrea Berta, really likes. He is possibly the best value for money option out there, but the time is ticking. Other interest is building. We know that Ruben Amorim at Manchester United likes him. So let's see if Arsenal move on that sooner. Sooner rather than later. They'll be looking at the wide position with names like Nico Williams, of Anthony Gordon. We see more coming every day, like Antoine Semenyo and Rafael Leao in the press. I don't know on the veracity of all of them, but it is a position that Arsenal are focusing on. Martin Zubimendi is coming in from Real Sociedad, as we've reported on NBC for quite some time. That will bolster the midfield. They want to renew Thomas Partey's contract. He wants to stay, but will they reach an agreement? If they don't, will they look elsewhere? They are already looking at possible alternatives for him, but let's see what happens. In defence, they like Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth to bolster at centre-back, but there are a number of clubs in the mix for him. There may be a left-back who comes in, with Kieran Tierney leaving and Alexander Zinchenko available for transfer with just a year left on his contract. Raheem Sterling will leave. Will there be new contracts in players like Leandro Trossard, who's under contract until 2026? There are reports breaking just before we went on air that Arsenal are in talks to renew him. In 27, there's Gabriel Magalhaes, there's Gabriel Martinelli, and other key players who Arsenal will want to tie down. And a second-choice goalkeeper when Neto returns from his loan to Bournemouth. There is a huge amount to do, in and out. Arsenal will try to be prudent with their money, but this is a massive summer coming up for them, for their sporting director, Andrea Berta, for Mikel Arteta as manager, and of course, for the owners, the Kroenke family.
And you'll be right there, I know, in the middle of it. David, thank you so much, our Premier League insider, joining us live.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the...
Jamie, that's a bit sad. I'm a bit sad. I know you're not. Yeah. But look, people will talk about the miss of Bukayo. People will talk about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I do believe that Paris Saint-Germain deserve to go through over the two legs, and I have to be. It's not even being good sport. They do deserve it. It does hurt as an Arsenal fan, but you have to congratulate them.
Yeah. I mean, they had to score in that early time, didn't they?
Yes.
Arsenal, they had to score in the first 15, 20 minutes. They had to in there. I mean, as you said, the best team have got through. I mean, that is the final, really, isn't it? We're probably hoping for Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, but Arsenal will be disappointed. But as I said, Paris Saint-Germain have been the best team in Europe this season. So,
well, what were your thoughts, Jamie? I haven't been able to hear them for the last half an hour or so.
The best team won. I was impressed with Arsenal's performance in this game. They actually did a lot more than I thought they would, and I think they'll come away from the game thinking they were maybe unfortunate to lose the actual game in itself. I mean, even though PSG missed the penalty, let's not forget. But they put up a really strong show, and I think in that first 20-25 minutes, I think they gave PSG a real scare, and they were very unlucky not to go 1-0 up.
What's your perspective, Thierry?
I mean, like Jamie said, I mean, the best team went through, and people will talk to me about moment, and yeah, moments do matter, details do matter. Paris Saint-Germain blitzed Arsenal at the beginning at the Emirates I'm talking about, and scored. Arsenal did the same thing at the Parc des Princes and didn't score. And yes, you will tell me that Donnarumma saved it. People will talk to me about the miss of Bukayo Saka. I can go also with Desiré Doué not giving the ball to Barcola. Barcola missing almost a 1v1. Okay, Declan Rice touched it. Them missing a penalty. We can have a lot. At the end of the day, the best team went through. It is painful, but there's nothing really you can say. At one point, Arsenal started to be really direct. Any throw-in, any free kick, anything were played long in the box. No, seriously, and by the way, it worked. It did work, but not enough. And there was a difference between the two teams for me.
Does this feel kind of like a coming of age for PSG in some ways for this team?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've looked better than Inter Milan in this competition because that's all that matters now. And I think if you're PSG and you get to the final and you come up against Inter Milan, who are a very good team, but it's not Real Madrid, it's big Meeks.
It means Peter Schmeichel and Donnarumma reunited.
Being ignored.
Will Donnarumma know a big meat
Big
is?
Meat is being ignored. He's just watching, he's letting the goalkeepers have their moment, I think.
I mean, I love that moment. Peter Schmeichel.
look at that.
He knows who
He
Big
got some
Meat
love.
is. He's going to ask him now who his favourite is, isn't he? Who's your favourite? It's you. Look at Mike. Mike was asking about his shoulder.
I'm okay, he said.
But listen, this is the man at the moment. He's won the Champions League before. Is he going to win it again, Thierry? Would you make them favourites? You think they've got a really
I go
big
further.
confidence now?
I go further. He won the treble.
Yes.
He can do another one with another team.
Yeah.
So, look, anything can happen in the final. You already know that. Jamie, I'm not going to go there. But what it did is you were saying, like, is it a team that's coming of age? But there's the youngest team that they ever... Normally that happens to... I won't talk about wine and yesterday, but normally that's what happened with, a good wine, a good team, when you have a couple of hurdles and you didn't win. But that team is very young. Most of them don't even know the bad result in Europe for Paris Saint-Germain, and they don't really care. They went to semi-final last year. They're going to the final this year, and it looks like they might win it. But hey, don't sleep on Inter. It's going to be a very good final.
I'm getting rushed. By popular demand, Micah is not here in the studio. No, he was voted that he should be in Paris, and there he is, man of the people, Micah Richards.
He said, yeah, baby.
Where are you?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes.
What is he saying?
Is he a Paris Saint-Germain fan now?
That's what I'm saying. The guy's an Arsenal fan. Look at what he does.
I'm an absolute great town. This is why you want me on the road, because this is absolutely outstanding. I'm a
Well.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm absolutely loving it.
I don't know how the Arsenal fan will take that one, him being an Arsenal fan and singing Paris Saint-Germain, but he's going to have to deal with that one.
Yeah. You spoken to him today? Is he in good spirits?
Yeah, it was. Did I speak to him? This guy called me, video called me, and I was out of the shower.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's... No, but, anyway. What time this guy? And I was out of the shower. That's my man calling me. So I'm like, okay. I answer. And it was like with some Arsenal fan. And as soon as I saw it was, I didn't have a T-shirt on and stuff. And I put the phone down. This guy, that's typical him. And then I called back and he was in good spirit. Having I don't know what if I can say, maybe it was or maybe not. Anyway, he was at the terrace with some Arsenal fans, pretending to be an Arsenal fan. An aperitif, yes. And now he's pretending to be a Paris Saint-Germain fan. But anyway, no, he was in good spirit, and it's nice to see him like that.
He's gonna carry on in good spirits. And this is apparently what he's been up to. This is his day so far. Oysters? Is that?
Wow.
Snails.
Oh, he's got a sticky
stuff. Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah,
no.
Snails.
Oh, no.
Enjoyed
it, huh?
Commiserations. That was Arsenal's first semi-final in the Champions League since the 2008-2009 campaign. How tough is it to take?
Well, first of all, congratulate PSG. They are in the final. It's not about merits. It's actually about what the scoreline shows. This game is about, and this competition about the boxes. And in both games, their man of the match was the same player, their goalkeeper.
Today was Achraf Hakimi.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I think it was clear who won the game today for them. And I just spoke to them, and they had the same view on it. So very disappointed to not to be in the final, but we have to accept that the performance is not enough. At the end, you have to have the capacity to win the game in the box.
Who is it that you spoke to,
Yeah,
sorry?
to a few people of them. Yeah.
Oh, and they shared that opinion.
Yeah.
In terms
all of them.
Events within the game,
Yeah.
there was the penalty call. You didn't seem happy with that. Of course, Raya stepped up. He made the save. Saka managed to pull one back, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. That's all in the past now.
Oh, OK. Well, unfortunately, we've only got 30 seconds left, so you can give me a very quick reaction.
I'm good at these. I'm good at these links. No, listen. Listen. When a manager speaks after the game, he's still emotional. I've seen another interview where he says that he feels Arsenal the best team in the Champions League this season and what they've done. That's nonsense. They're not. They're not. He said something similar a couple of days about Liverpool's points tally, and the same one with him. So, no, I think he's just an emotional manager at the moment.
5,
yeah.
4.
So
He's great at these
we'll
links.
see you in Munich.
Everybody have a wonderful time. See you at the
1.
final.
Has been, well, a mixed week in Europe in terms of the Champions League for Arsenal, and of course a very good week if you're a Tottenham or Manchester United fan, because of course they are going to meet in the Europa League final, Chelsea through to the Conference League final. We pretty much expected that. But Bodie, let's begin by talking about Arsenal and that second tie away to PSG, which they lost in the end by 2-1, 3-1 on aggregates. I mean, whatever Mikel Arteta might have said in the days subsequently from that, over the course of the two legs, they were beaten by the better side, weren't they?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think whoever goes through is obviously the better team side. I think we get sometimes carried away, especially nowadays, in terms of when you look at the numbers and everybody can crunch them together and try and put a positive spin on it. The only thing that matters is the end result, and PSG are going to Munich for the final. I mean, there's no doubt that Arsenal had moments over the two legs, but I thought for 20-25 minutes at the Emirates, PSG controlled the game. And Arsenal started really well in Paris, but when they never got that goal early, you felt as if it was only a matter of PSG scoring. That's exactly what happened. Yes, it took a deflection, and Mikel Arteta and Arsenal won't be happy about that. But I think for PSG, they're an outstanding team. The way that they go about their business defensively, but then the transition as well, really, really quick. And I think even what Mikel Arteta has been speaking about after that and saying they're the best team in the tournament, I don't really know where he's getting these numbers from, because even if you look at the majority of, if you go right down through the stats, Arsenal ain't at the top of many of them. I'm not quite sure where he's pulling these numbers from. I get that he needs to put a positive spin on it. I get that he will be happy that his team have went out of Europe, but when you look at overall, they're not at the level that everybody. They're not at the level that Mikel Arteta spoke about after the match.
Clinton, listen, in terms of them being back in the Champions League, it's very much for them. They're in their infancy stage for this particular team. You look at City, how long it took them to finally win the Champions League, having been in it for so many seasons. But he continually talks about how close they are to converting their league position into a title, turning these runs into an eventual trophy. But at the moment, they potentially may not finish the season even second. Man City could equal them on points today, and who knows how the rest of the season then plays out with 2 more games to go after this weekend. Is that we're close going to start to wear a little bit thin?
100%. They were close 2 seasons ago. They haven't been close this season, and this was the best opportunity for them to maybe challenge the likes of Liverpool. And I know Man City, all these teams were in the contest at the start of the season, and obviously they've had disappointing seasons. Liverpool have been the better team. This was the best, I think, season, an opportunity for Arsenal to do that. I think Mikel Arteta, and Brody's right, he's coming out and saying about the stats. I don't care about stats in football. Stats don't win you football matches. It's about putting the ball in the back of the net, and results win you football matches. That's what it's about, and they haven't done that. They didn't do it against PSG. PSG played it brilliantly. Yeah, Donnarumma in the second.
He was unbelievable.
Outstanding. He's been brilliant. He was even brilliant against Aston Villa. I thought he was brilliant, magnificent in the second leg. But he's coming under pressure. So as a manager, you will come out and start saying stuff to defend your team for sure. But yeah, there'll be question marks.
You think there's a chance of Mikel Arteta losing his job?
No, I don't think he'll lose his job. I think they'll back him again in the summer, but I think next season is a big season.
But
they have to
the
win
pressure to get it
season.
right this summer.
Of course it is.
Get that striker in, the right striker.
And get the right,
cut them some slack domestically this season, though, in terms of the league for me, because I think the last few weeks, and I know everybody, we've been saying here for ages that Liverpool are going to win the league. They've put all their eggs in the one basket of trying to get the Champions League, and that's where they've dropped off.
Why are you cutting them slack at the start of the season? He should have been chasing them down. If Man City fall off, then you're the next best team that think you should go on and win it. That's when I will cut them slack over the last month or so, because they've been concentrating.
And that's where they've dropped the majority of the
points. That's
points.
where they dropped most of the points. But at the start of the season, during the season, been nowhere near good enough. And Liverpool have been the better team. So yeah, as I said, I agreed with a lot what Boydie said. But the question marks will come over Mikel Arteta. But I still think he'll be there next season. But he needs to win stuff, because the Arsenal fans will get frustrated.
going to start here at the San Siro, where Inter Milan and Barcelona played out a Champions League classic as the Italian side sealed their place in the final with a 7-6 aggregate win.
After a thrilling 3-3 draw in the first leg, not many thought it could be a repeat, but there was all that and much more as well, with Inter snatching the win in extra time just moments after they'd scored a stoppage time equaliser to keep alive their Champions League hopes.
Incredible. Paris Saint-Germain or Arsenal will await Inter now in the final, with Simone Inzaghi guiding Inter to their second final in just 3 years.
Well, Inter looked to be heading out until Francesco Acerbi's stoppage time goal made it 6-6 on aggregate. The Italians then snatched the win in extra time thanks to substitute Davide Fratesi. 7-6, the final score after 2 legs.
Stasera siamo stati straordinari. È stata una partita di una difficoltà estrema contro un avversario di livello mondiale come l'è stato il Bayern Monaco. Abbiamo fatto 4 partite, una meglio dell'altra, se no chiaramente non andavamo in finale, non ci pronosticavano in tanti li abbiamo lasciati come sempre, quando era il momento li abbiamo ascoltati, chi più, chi meno, e poi insomma adesso siamo molto orgogliosi per la nostra gente. Stasera insomma l'applauso finale, il giro con tutti i nostri tifosi se lo meritano, perché non hanno mai lasciato un seggiolino vuoto a San Siro, quindi era giusto condividere questa bella finale con loro. E poi insomma vanno fatti i complimenti anche al Barcellona, perché hanno fatto 2 grandi partite anche loro.
They're really strong, but they are also experienced. We have a young team, and we will improve, of course. And this is our job, to make this team better and better. And we will do it. We work on that, and also we can improve in the defense, of course, but also in the offense. You feel a little bit unfair because I think some decision the referee made was really maybe not on our side, but it's like that. Okay, we have to accept it. And we start again next season. Okay, to win the Champions League. This is one of our goals.
So, a Champions League classic then, no doubt about that, and the numbers back it up. There's only been one other occasion since 1992 that a semi-final has seen 13 goals scored across 2 legs. That one was, of course, Liverpool against Roma in 2018.
The sustained quality from first leg to second leg, with that many utterly balmy moments and swings in it, I've not seen anything like it. I'm quite happy for people to criticise me for recency bias, but I thought that was magnificent.
It was one for the ages. There will be contenders. I think Spurs might have a say too. From 2019 against Ajax, that was more just the second leg, but still an iconic European moment. But goodness me, it had a bit of everything.
Last week, I didn't think they were going to be able to top that. I thought tactics would kick in. I thought it would become cagey, close, too much at stake, and it wasn't that. It was just chaos.
I think this is the night for Simone Inzaghi, and he's had a few of them. He reached the Champions League final a couple of years ago, and he's done that again, 2 finals in 3 years. What a coach he is, and maybe he's a little bit underappreciated. He does get linked with some of the top jobs in the Premier League in particular, but he's staying at Inter at the moment and doing a fabulous job.
Well, speaking on social media, Lamine Yamal was bullish about Barcelona's future prospects. He said, "We've given it our all this year. We couldn't make it, but we'll be back. Don't doubt it. We won't stop until we leave this club where it deserves to be, at the top. I'll keep my promise and bring it to Barcelona. We won't stop until we achieve that."
Well, was last night the best semi-final tie that you've ever seen? We want your opinions. It doesn't have to be Champions League either. Use the hashtag GMSF, and we're going to share some of your opinions on air a little later. So we're looking for classic 2-legged ties, always. Semi-finals
in
ideal.
any competition.
Any competition. Even if it's one you've played in.
Yeah.
Right? Then, let us know.
Great. Well, Inter have history in this competition, having previously won 2 European Cups and 1 Champions League.
That's right, yeah. In 2010, they beat Barcelona in the semi-final before Jose Mourinho's side went on to beat Bayern Munich in the final. Remember that one?
2025 will be the 7th time Inter have reached the Champions League or European Cup final. Only 6 clubs, in fact, have achieved that feat on more occasions.
Yeah, that's right. And the last of those was in 2023 against Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, as the Italians lost 1-0 on the night, but came close to an upset in what many thought would be a very one-sided game. Well, if Arsenal can overcome PSG tonight, then they'll set up a final against Inter. Mikel Arteta's side lost 1-0 away to the Italian Giants earlier this season, with Hakan Çalhanoğlu scoring from the penalty spot, just like he did last night.
Dobbiamo continuare, la finale sarà una finale contro una grandissima squadra, che sia l'Arsenal, che sia il Paris Saint-Germain. Chiaramente capisco quello che tu mi hai chiesto, perché dopo aver affrontato il Bayern Monaco e il Barcellona, chiaramente saranno squadre difficilissime anche queste, ma il Bayern Monaco e il Barcellona probabilmente erano le 2 migliori squadre in Europa in questo momento.
Expert Kevin Hatchett joins us now to discuss this tie in more detail. Nowhere else to start, Kevin, than Lamine Yamal. And look, they've played down this comparison with Lionel Messi, but you have watched a lot of European football. How good is he? Is he better? Just tell us that.
He's arguably better than Messi at this stage, but whether he'll go on to produce that extraordinary longevity and that extraordinary body of work, we'll see. But in terms of the mental side of it, he is extraordinary, Lamine Yamal, because Hansi Flick alluded to it there. He almost always makes the right decision, whether it's the right type of pass, whether it's the right idea, whether it's to shoot, which player to bring into play. So he's a creative figure as well as a goal scorer. He's somebody that, like Messi, will grab a game by the scruff of the neck and drag it into Barcelona's favour. And I think the thing to bear in mind is that in that first leg, he played his 100th game for Barcelona. I mean, he's only 17, and yet he's been in that first team picture for 2 years now. He's won a European Championship with Spain. Not only did he win it, he was one of the key figures in winning it. So this is a young man that not only is getting some game time here and there, he's playing in the biggest games the sport has to offer, and he's generally winning them, and he's generally affecting them all the way through. It is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. I think, like you say, the Euros, watching him last year, I mean, just epic performances from him every step of the way. Look, we must, remember that he is only 17. So, Kevin, do you think he's got a temperament to deal with the pressure that is, if it's not already there, it's coming his way?
I think he does. I think he's one of those players that actually thrives in the big occasion. I think he wants more responsibility. I think one of the things as well that stands out about his game is the work without the ball. If you look at Spain's success in the European Championship, a lot of it was built on their pressing game. And guys like him and Nico Williams out wide were doing that hard work without the ball. So he's got that part of it locked down. I think he's got that healthy arrogance. He's been quite open about the fact that he's delighted they've been beating Real Madrid on a regular basis this season. He had not one pair of sunglasses, but 2 pairs for the Copa del Rey final recently. I think he enjoys the spotlight. I thought he spoke very impressively when he had that press conference recently. That was the first one he'd done, really, on the big stage. And I think he does have that maturity. He does have that ability to compartmentalise and deal with the big occasion.
Yeah, he's going to need it, isn't he, in the future? I love the fact that Inzaghi says they need to find a way to stop him. I think they're talking about double marking. Are you confident that they can do that and qualify for the final? What do you think?
I think Inter can make it. I think with Lamine Yamal, there's only so much you could do. He was exceptional in the first half of that first leg. Absolutely brilliant. And he needed to be, because Barca were 2-0 down in that game at one stage. I thought he was a little bit quieter in the second half, but the funny thing was he had a spell where he wasn't quite affecting the game, and yet then came up with this extraordinary effort where he lifted the ball over the goalkeeper and hit the frame of the goal, and everybody wasn't quite sure, was it a cross for Rafinha or was it a shot? And it was absolutely a shot, and he was happy to say that afterwards. So you can never quite keep him out for the whole game. I think where this Inter team are interesting is that they're happy to take punishment. They're happy to soak up lots and lots of shots, and then they'll hit you on the counter. A lot depends on how fit Lautaro Martinez is and how much of a role he can play. But as we saw last week, having Denzel Dumfries and Marcus Thuram back in their lineup gave them that pace and that dynamism on the counter. And against that high defensive line that Barca always play, that could be a key feature of the game tonight.
Walk us through Barcelona's front three. How do you feel that they compare to the famous Messi, Suarez and Neymar attack of old?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days as a three, but if you look at what they're achieving, they've won the Spanish Super Cup, they've won the Copa del Rey, they've absolutely hammered Real Madrid this season, and now they've beaten them 3 times across 3 different competitions. They've got them again at the weekend. If they were to win the Champions League, and they were to also win La Liga, that would be 4 trophies in one season. And so, you know, for them to do that, and they're a really nice mix as well, because Lewandowski's got all these goals this season. He's proven to people that thought he was maybe over the hill that that's absolutely not the case. Rafinha, I think, has been a revelation under Hansi Flick. And they are very much a reflection of their coach, because there are echoes of the Bayern team that Hansi Flick had in 2020, of which Lewandowski was a part. They are relentlessly attacking. They are risk takers. They're a team that loves to entertain, and they don't mind if the opposition score 2 or 3 because they're always confident they'll get 4 or 5. So, yeah, I think a little bit to go to eclipse that front three, but certainly a great start.
The main reasons.
Just not clinical enough, to be honest, Ted. Arsenal created a lot of chances, especially early on the first 7 minutes. Declan Rice had a header that went inches. You know, he outjumped Marquinhos. Great header, but just went wide of the post. Then Martinelli had a chance. Donnarumma made a good save. Saka had a chance right at the end. And I think it's a case of the same old story for Arsenal, really. Just not being clinical enough in the final third. And ultimately, when you play at the highest level, that will cost you, and it has tonight.
Luis Enrique's been lauded around the world. What could Arteta have done better tonight, do you think?
I don't think Arsenal could have done anything better than what they've done. They've gave everything. They're out on their feet. They kept trying. They kept trying to create. They was aggressive. The work rate was really good. The game plan was good. But again, you just fall short because Arsenal wasn't clinical enough. And that's what it's come down to. PSG, they rode the storm. They were organised. They were difficult to break down, but then they broke really fast. And when they did get their chances, they were clinical. Hakimi scored a fantastic goal. Fabio Ruiz, it was a great shot from the edge of the box. It did take a big deflection though, but they was more clinical overall.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang left Arsenal in February 2022, more than 3 years ago. Why have they not replaced him with an adequate goal scorer?
I mean, that's a question you're going to have to ask Mikel Arteta. But, I mean, Mikel Arteta was at Man City with Guardiola. Guardiola did play a few seasons without a number 9, a natural number 9. There was a lot of players that played in that position. Foden played there, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne. Players played that. Those kind of players played there. And I feel like with Mikel Arteta, maybe he's tried to do that and build the squad in areas that he thought was weaker. But now I feel like Mikel Arteta and Arsenal are at the point where they just need to say, okay, we're going to buy number 9. We really mean business, whoever it may be. The most important signing this summer is a number 9.
Who would you want? Seshko's been linked, RB Leipzig player, Gyökeres from Sporting.
I mean, ideally, in my opinion right now, the best overall striker in the world is Isak. And I say that because of his youth. He's got really good pace. He holds up the ball, he can beat players, he's very clinical, his movement's very good. Someone like him would be fantastic. But there are going to be a lot of teams that want him. You know, there's been talks that Real Madrid might want him. Liverpool are looking for a number 9. Darwin Núñez might be leaving. So it's going to be a big summer of business for Arsenal. He would be the best one, in my opinion. But there are other strikers out there that could come and do a job. Delap, he could maybe be a good option. I believe he's between 30 and 40 million pounds. Very good young player. But ultimately, whoever comes in, they need to hit the ground running and be an absolute goal-scoring machine for Arsenal, because that's where Arsenal fall short.
5 seasons without a trophy now since the FA Cup in 2020 for Mikel Arteta. How sure are you that he is the manager to lead Arsenal?
I hate this question, to be honest, because I don't want to say that Arteta should get the sack. I wouldn't wish that upon nobody, but I feel like things will have to change if this continues. You can't hide away from the fact that Mikel Arteta has spent the better part of £700 million, which is an awful lot of money, and to then say you don't have a recognisable number 9.
Or any goal scorers really in the team, apart from Saka, are there?
And that's the problem. Like, I feel like Arsenal is a bit lopsided. Everyone knows the ball goes out to Saka. Even tonight's game, Kvaratskhelia and Mendes were doubling up really well on Saka. Yes, he did score, but in them wide areas, it was difficult for him to get on the ball. And even though Martinelli does do well and he does his part, he works really hard, he makes some good runs in behind, when, especially against teams that play with the high line, there just seems to be a lopsided. And I feel like Arsenal need to make some signings to make the squad stronger, but to not have to rely on Saka so much in these big games.
How confident are you that Arsenal will win a trophy next season?
You're really putting me on the spot.
No, but this is what the Arsenal fans, because they're looking at Manchester United, aren't they, saying that's a chaotic team that's won the League Cup, FA Cup, potentially the Europa League in 3 seasons, whereas Arsenal all the plaudits, but nothing.
Very, very true. I think next year is going to be a much more competitive Premier League, I believe. Man City are going to go and sign players, Liverpool are going to go and sign, Chelsea are going to build again, Newcastle have the money to go and spend on players. I think it's going to be very, very competitive. It's going to be an interesting summer. But I believe Arsenal, they're not far away, let's put it that way. I think maybe 2-3 players away from really putting on a strong title challenge and going to win the domestic cups and really competing in the Champions League.
From the continent, Xabi Alonso has revealed he is going to leave Bayer Leverkusen at the end of the season. He's been addressing the media. Let's hear from him right now.
Ich würde gerne das Wort erstmal an Xabi übergeben für ein paar persönliche Worte.
Ja, hallo zusammen und ja, heute wieder. Vielleicht ist es besser für mich auf Englisch zu erklären. And yes, I think that it's good that we can let you know that this week the club and I we have agreed that these 2 games are going to be my last 2 games as Bayer Leverkusen coach. We have been talking during this week that it's always about the momentum, and now is the right moment to announce it, because we have always had this good communication, this direct communication with the club. And now that we have clarity, is the right moment to say that for sure it's a moment with mixed emotions. That it's the moment to announce it and to know it. But yes, it's the moment to do it. It's not the moment as well not to talk too much and not to talk about the future, because now that we know, we want to have a proper farewell on Sunday here for some players, for myself, and it was the right moment to announce it. I think that we have to enjoy this moment with mixed emotions. For sure, it's emotional. I have talked this morning with the players, with the staff, with so many people that has helped me during this unbelievable, fantastic 3 years. And now it's a moment to share it as well with on Sunday, especially with the fans in this stadium, where I have lived great emotions, when I have become what I am right now, and I have to be thankful to everyone, from the fans, the people in the club, the staff, and for sure the players to live. And football is many times about the moment, and probably the moment is the good one for everyone, and let's try to enjoy it till the last moment, as much as we have done till now. I think that we can be happy, we can be proud
of what we have achieved during this time. Different moments, but always with a good feeling that we were taking the club in the right direction and we could do the great things as finally happened. So mixed emotions, but very thankful from the first day till the last one. And now we have still 2 games. We will have time to get more emotional, but the decision was taken. The club, like always, we have had a very good connection and understanding, and the clarity was there. So you got it finally, the announcement, after chasing it.
bitte von Sky.
Ja, hallo zusammen, hallo Xabi. Jetzt schon vielen Dank für eine sehr emotionale, tolle Zeit. Hat Spaß gemacht, aber ist auch noch nicht ganz vorbei.
Yeah, Spaß, aber we do it in English today because it's better to explain all this. Yeah, it's emotional. It's a mix emotions. Especially today, it has been the moment with the people of the club, with the players for sure, because they have given me so much, and I think that we have had a great connection, and that's been the key. You know, that I have felt that they believed in me and they follow me, and that's why we have been so easy going every day with our things, with our games, winning, losing, but always with a good chemistry, and it was important, and for sure it was emotional. It's still time to enjoy it, but that's gonna be the idea, to now that we have clarity, to enjoy till the last moment. We have a big moment. I'm really looking forward on Sunday, the game against Dortmund, for many players, not just for myself, for Jonathan Tah, for Emi, for other players that can be the last day in our stadiums, and the fans as well. I want that to have a proper goodbye with them.
We got confirmation of the news we've been expecting. Trent Alexander-Arnold has said he is leaving Liverpool. Jamie Carragher is, of course, the man you want to hear about on this story. So, Jamie, first of all, how big a hole is Trent going to leave?
A massive hole. He's a fantastic talent. He's a unique player in that position, and that's why Liverpool were, desperate to keep him, and that's why Real Madrid want to sign him. He's not just your ordinary fullback. He's the type of fullback that probably comes along every 10, 20 years because he's different. As I said, he's unique, and he's a very special talent that will, of course, leave a huge void to be filled.
Why does no one talk about his defending anymore?
Probably because he's going. In terms of what?
Well, teams attack Liverpool down his side, don't they? Because I think they perceive a weakness.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that anymore. Isn't that something that maybe we talk about how good he is with the ball? Should we not talk about his play when he's not got it?
Well, I think we do talk about that quite a bit. I think he gets criticised for that. He isn't the best defender out there. I'm saying he's unique because when you're describing someone who's a great fullback, you normally put defender 1v1 at the top of the list. What would make a great fullback? I don't think that would be near the top of the list for Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't think it ever will be. He's a very experienced player now. He's improved a lot defensively since he first came into the team as an 18-year-old kid. But there's still a lot better. Lots of other fullbacks out there would be better in those situations. But what makes him different and what makes him special is he can do things that other fullbacks can only dream about. So. He will still have those things thrown at him in Spain for Real Madrid. There's no doubt about that. Liverpool are the top club in England, Real Madrid are the top club in Spain, but you still have some very tough games, whether that's in the Champions League or certainly away from home in La Liga, and he will be tested.
I read your article in the Daily Telegraph, and really interesting. What struck me was the fact that you let me get the phrase right, he may damage his legacy. You said something like that. Does that matter to a player?
It mattered to me, but I was never in this situation. I had options of maybe choosing the club of the calibre of Real Madrid. But for some people it does, and for some people it doesn't. And some people want their career to have played for some of the best clubs in the world. And then you look at that career and think, wow, Liverpool, Real Madrid. I'm thinking of Xabi Alonso. When I think of his career, sort of Liverpool, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, you think, wow, playing with some of the greatest clubs in the world. And Trent, after, where'd you go from Real Madrid and two of the biggest clubs in Wales football? But he will lose something that he's got right now in terms of Liverpool supporters, whether that's their love for him or that they thought he was, one of our own, if you like. That will diminish. Now, some people will say, playing for Real Madrid, that price is not worth paying, but other people will say, no, you've got to play for Real Madrid. It's the biggest club in the world. You put that to one side, how the supporters feel. At the moment, it's your career. You get one chance at it, and you're playing for the biggest club in the world. I don't think any Liverpool supporter would deny that's what Real Madrid are, but that is something he has sacrificed by playing for Real Madrid. That's his decision.
Sure. Are you concerned that Liverpool have let one of their most valuable assets go for absolutely nothing?
No. I mean, I'd love to have got what he's worth, probably 70 to 100 million pounds. As I said, he's a unique footballer, and it's been great to try and replace him. I'm not as angry with Trent or anything like that. Maybe some of the fan base are, because he's gone on a free. Because for me, he came on a free. He come through the academy. He didn't cost the club nothing. I know people always look at clubs when they talk about players going on a free, and I say this all the time. I'm not sure people are listening or understanding. If a player wants to leave for a free, he can. The club can do nothing about it. People say, oh, sell him. The player doesn't have to go. There was no way Liverpool were going to sell Trent Alexander-Arnold when a new manager had just come in an Arne Slot and leave that hole that they've got to fill next year, but give that problem to a manager when he's first come. And also they'll think over the next 12 months, if we're really successful, we win a league like Liverpool have, can we maybe, not force him is the wrong word, almost change his mind to sign a contract. So Liverpool were never going to sell Trent Alexander-Arnold before his contract was up. And maybe Real Madrid were never going to buy him before his contract was up, because Real Madrid, if you look at their history in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I think they speak to players and their agents a year or two out from when the contract's up, and they'll say, well, if you want to play for Real Madrid, we'll sign you in a couple of years. Now, I'm not saying that's happened with Trent, but it definitely happened with players before, and it may have happened in this situation. We don't know. But Real Madrid at this moment don't pay massive fees for players. They wait for players to leave on a free because they feel they're the biggest club in the world and everybody wants to play for them.
Obviously, Trent is going to have to be replaced, you would think. Arne Slot pushed on transfer activity over the summer, and he said, but we've kept 2 of the 3. We've kept Virgil, we've kept Mo. But where do Liverpool have to strengthen?
Well, I mentioned this after the Leicester game. Liverpool have got to make a decision around Conor Bradley. Is he their right back, and they buy somebody who fills in around him, whether that's a utility player, maybe a centre-back who can play right back, something like that, or do you go and buy a recognised right back, and it's like, OK, it's a real fight in terms of the right-back position. I actually think Conor Bradley, for what he's done so far in the Liverpool shirt, deserves to be given the go that he's our right-back. And Liverpool still need to go and invest in someone who can play in that area. And then 12 months down the line, you maybe then make that decision. Is Conor Bradley good enough to play for Liverpool week in, week out? We probably still don't know that right now, but he's definitely done enough so far in the Liverpool shirt for me to be given his head.
OK. That's Jamie then on Trent Alexander-Arnold and Liverpool. When we come back in the next hour, we're going to talk the race for the top 5.
There's one more thing I want to say as well.
No, you carry on.
Can we just we're not going to edit this, are we?
No, you carry on.
There's this thing that I've been reading throughout the day, obviously when the news breaks, and you've got the reaction of Liverpool supporters, which are different. Some people wish him all the best, some people are really angry, some people are somewhere in the middle. I'm probably one of the ones who was somewhere in the middle. But I'm sick all day of reading about journalists or other people who have got no affiliation to Liverpool telling Liverpool supporters how they should feel. They're not Liverpool supporters. Liverpool as a city and a football club is very emotional, and that's what makes us what we are. And that's why you see the scenes that you saw last week when Liverpool won the league. You don't really see those scenes for a team winning the league because we are emotional. Football means a lot to us. So I just wanted to just mention that I don't think people out there should be telling Liverpool supporters how they should feel. Liverpool supporters, like Trent, as Trent's going to Real Madrid, he can do what he wants. It's his career. Fine, good luck to him. But Liverpool supporters can also feel how they want about this situation.
Absolutely, I'm glad you
I just
came in. There you
I thought you were going to ask me.
Officially announced that he will be leaving. Very good morning as well to Sue and to Jay. Thank you for joining me this morning. Sue, let's come to you. You will know the reverberations that will echo around Merseyside with this announcement. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of course there's going to be disappointment amongst Liverpool fans. They clearly want a player of Trent Alexander-Arnold's stature to have stayed at the club. I was listening to Arne Slot's interview yesterday and he said, we've already had a big summer. We've signed Mo Salah, we've signed Virgil van Dijk. It's going to be another big summer, but he didn't mention Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I sort of thought then, is this going to come at some point? Because we've been speaking about it for a long period of time, those three, and we were saying that those contracts were maybe intertwined but also slightly different because of the different profiles of the players, the age different, the different types of players, different points of their career. And of course it's going to be a massive disappointment because I think everything that Trent Alexander-Arnold's done for the club, he's been pivotal in the successes of Liverpool. He's been there from a youngster coming through, so I think also that has that emotional attachment. I think there'll be a lot of fans that will say that of course he wanted a new challenge, and clearly a big club comes along like Real Madrid, it's very difficult to turn that down. There'll be others that will say, well, why hasn't he stayed with Liverpool? Because we could potentially dominate for a long period of time now. We've showed what we can do this season. So there'll be mixed opinions, but you've got to say from a personal perspective, he's done so much for the club and now he just wants a fresh challenge.
I mean, I completely agree with you. He's won everything he can possibly win at Liverpool Football Club. He's had a great career there. Obviously, he's one of the fan favourites. He's been fantastic for England, one of the best right-backs in the world, especially on the ball. He's been fantastic. And when someone like Real Madrid come for you, the biggest club in the world, it's hard to say no to that. Like he said, it's a new challenge for him. It's going to be a big challenge for him. He's playing with some of the best players in the world, some of the best young players in the world, what they're building at Real Madrid. But he's only 26 years old. Who's to say that he won't go to Real Madrid for 3 years and then say, OK, now I want to come back to Liverpool and play for Liverpool again. And he strikes me as the kind of person that would do that. That's how much he loves Liverpool. But again, he's had a great career and, good luck to him. He has to go to Real Madrid now and perform like he's been performing for Liverpool.
Yeah, it's interesting in that statement, Real Madrid is not mentioned in there. But I don't...
He's not going to Everton, Sue.
Well, I mean, it is very, very reminiscent. A young man leaving these shores to go off and claim football glory abroad. It reminds me of a player who left England to go and sign for Muangthong United. It's very, very similar.
I think that was a money deal.
But actually, in all seriousness, your contract came to an end at Coventry, didn't you? And you went out to Perugia.
Yeah.
So it's not Liverpool to Real Madrid, but those kind of thought processes, going abroad, taking a different challenge.
The reason why I went to Perugia was pretty much because me and my dad always used to watch Football Italia, and I always said, and we always spoke about it, if I get the opportunity to go and play in Serie A, then I would go and do it. And at the time, Serie A was probably the best league in the world. All the best players in the world were there. AC Milan were dominating. So it was a great opportunity for me, and actually that helped me grow as a person and as a player. And when you look at Trent's going to be going to one of the biggest clubs in the world, not a lonely Perugia, and he's going to be learning a different culture, a different way of life, a different mentality, where there's always expectation every single year. I mean, the minimum is winning the league, the absolute minimum, but obviously they want to win the Champions League as well. And sometimes the Champions League is more important than the league for them. So it's going to be a great experience for him. He's a top player, and I'm sure he's going to be successful there.
As a champion of England, what has it been like seeing what it's meant to people and, of course, knowing what it means to you?
That has been the best part of it all. Working here for 10 months, you can already get an idea what it means to the people if we were able to win it. But the moment the bus we were driving in, that was emotional. And you could feel how much it would mean to them. And from the moment we were in the stadium till we left the stadium, yeah, I think we all saw and knew. We already knew it, but we saw it even more, how special it was. And a big compliment to our fans that there was no pitch invasion. I think that was also the reason what made it so special after the game, because the amount of times you see fans running on the pitch and then all of a sudden there was no celebration anymore.
Yeah.
Or only for 2 minutes. This was, yeah, I think every club around the world should watch this and say, this is the perfect way of celebrating it.
Yeah. Can you talk us through how you felt in those moments leading up to and after the full-time whistle? I must admit, as I drove to Anfield in that morning, I wondered, you know, you're so far clear, what would the celebrations be like? But being part of that outpouring of joy, that wave of emotion, what was that like for you?
That was brilliant, but to go into a game knowing that you still need a point to clinch it, I think that's the way you say it. There also comes a bit of pressure with that, because when you arrive at the stadium you feel like, whoa, if we're not able to achieve it today, that would be a big upset. So it also came with a bit of responsibility and a bit of anxiety maybe when I speak for myself. But like I said before, the moment you arrive at the stadium, you feel it's almost impossible that we're gonna lose this game, because, yeah, I've already experienced some special moments at Anfield. I've already experienced a few times that the fans really helped us getting the win over the line or getting a late game winner. But this was more than I think anyone has ever felt before. At least that's what people tell me. I'm only here for 10 months, but the die-hard Liverpool fans that have been here for so many years put this probably in the top 3 of Anfield games.
I feel like we're in a really privileged position, so we're sat obviously right next to the bench, directly behind you when you're kind of on the touchline. I feel like with a couple of minutes to go, I think I saw you turn and look up and blow a kiss to someone in the crowd.
No, not to somebody, that would probably be my wife and my children.
I'm guessing, yeah.
But I also looked up because I wanted to see, you 9 out of 10 times in every stadium you see the cup in our situation that are celebrating and singing, but this time, and it has happened a few times before at Anfield, but this time the whole stadium was red, so that was brilliant what Virgil came up with, that the whole stadium was red. But everywhere you saw the same emotion, and I've said before, normally when we are 3 goals clear and there's 5 minutes to play, I still feel there might go something wrong. But being 5-1 up with only a few minutes to play, that was a moment also to look around and see what it has meant to everyone.
So I want to take you now back to the start, or back to the start of this Liverpool journey. So we're almost 12 months. The phone rings and you're told that Liverpool might be interested. How well can you picture that moment? Where are you sat? Who called you?
Oh, I don't even know exactly where I was at that moment anymore. I don't think, no, I don't know. But I do know that it was a special moment because I was really happy at Feyenoord. The way I could work there, the success we had together. So I could have worked there for 3 or 4 more years. So there were only a few clubs where I would leave Feyenoord for. And it's not a surprise that Liverpool was definitely one of them. And that's also, again, the positive thing from what happened last Sunday. When I talk to players in the past, last season or now, because we are working, of course, already towards next season, I always tell them we have one of the special, maybe the special fans of the world. But from this moment on, I don't have to tell this anymore. People only have to look the videos back from Sunday, and then everybody knows how special it is. So this was one of the few clubs I would leave Feyenoord for, and I haven't regretted 1 second. Not only because we won the league, but definitely also for the way I can work here on a daily basis with great staff, great facility, and a great bunch of players to work with.
There's been a little bit of reporting about that first meeting between yourself and Richard Hughes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he comes to meet you in Zwolle at your home. What does he say to convince you? And I know it's Liverpool, so in some senses, where do I sign? In another respect, you're following Jurgen Klopp, you want to know. I think you said to him, why me? Is that right? Did you need to be told anything or see anything about what the vision was to be convinced?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I asked it, but it could definitely be a question that I ask. If someone is interested or a club is interested, why would I ask that question? Because we performed really well. At Feyenoord, we were in the final of the Conference League. We won the league, we won the cup. So if it's only about that, about winning things, then I'm less interested. I also want to hear that they like a playing style, that they like player development and all these kind of things, that they maybe even like me as a person, so that they did their homework, if that's the way you say it over here. Yeah. Very well. Now that is almost a stupid question to ask if you ask this to someone from Liverpool, but if there's ever a club that did his homework, that's Liverpool, with all the data and all the things. I noticed this now also when we were interested in certain players.
Were you surprised by how much they knew about you?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I know now for sure, but Julian Ward was someone that I know from 4 or 5 years ago, because I visited Liverpool once when he did the loan. And he called me, I think, a month before Richard called me, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going through Europe. I'm interested in how some certain clubs work. Can I come to your place as well?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can." So he was there for 1 or 2 days, and looking back at it now, he wasn't there for just learning something. He just wanted to know how I worked, and hearing from the staff how the cooperation was and how we worked together. So again, an example of how what they all do to find their best possible player or manager.
When you arrived here at this incredible facility that we're at now, what was your initial approach? What did you try to get across to the players? I know in the early weeks you only had a few players, but then you go to America, then the internationals come. In those early weeks, what did you try and get across?
It's a long time ago, and a lot of meetings have been in between. But I think, but I'm not 100% sure, that the main things I spoke about was, of course, it's always about work rate, it's always about putting a lot of effort in, but also keeping the ball maybe in some situations a bit longer. Do not always go for the ball that has a lot of risk, but maybe wait a little bit longer for the right moment, although sometimes the right moment is also the first pass. But
that's the biggest change from Jurgen, perhaps.
I hope people still see a lot of things the same, also in that regard. So I think we are still a team that is a big threat on the counter-attack, because we have so many fast players. But I think you are right that there are certain parts of games where we keep the ball a little bit longer than Jurgen's teams did. Although there are, of course, many games that his teams kept the ball longer as well. But in general, maybe that's a slight difference. Not as big of a difference as people say, because I do read that his style of play was rock and roll and players had to run so much more, I think. But I'm going to ask this question. But I think I already know that there's not that much difference between the amount of running the players do now and last season. But the media wants to have a story, so that was rock and roll. With me, it's patience. But I think both teams, if we don't have the ball, are really aggressive. We don't go to a low block. We're always there to press high. So I see many more similarities than I see differences.
When you walk through the door here, or maybe not when you walk through, when they walk through, because the internationals had a longer break, how impressed were you with the senior core of players? I know you've spoken a lot about this with regard to Virgil, but Alisson, Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Trent. that group of kind of senior leadership that you had within the club already, the culture?
Now Mo was already there on the first day because he didn't have a tournament, and that impressed me from the start because we did a test, a running test, and he was number one. I would almost say by far. That's a bit exaggerated, but you hope for this, that one of your star players has that mentality to show up on the first training and be the fittest one. Quality was good in the first few weeks in general from the players, but when our national team players came back, you could immediately see, oh, now we're definitely on a different level over here than we were at Feyenoord, for example. The first 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't feel that there was such a big difference, which is normal because we had national team players at Feyenoord as well that play with Virgil van Dijk and Ryan Gravenberch and Cody Gakpo, for example. But when these players came back, you could see, now the level goes even further up, and that was also the first time where I felt like we will definitely compete this season with the other teams.
So I want to ask you, I know you've been asked loads about this, but the masterstroke of playing Ryan Gravenberch 6, what did you want from the player in that position? And also I'm interested in how him playing 6, Gravenberch playing 6, then brings the best out in Alexis McAllister. Was that part of your thinking?
I asked Ryan if he could come back a bit earlier than he actually did, because we had a few games in America to play, and I was really curious how he would do in that position, because when we came back from America there was only 2 games left on the same day. I think it was Sevilla and Las Palmas, so there wasn't a lot of time for me to try something out. But one of the things I spoke to most of the players, maybe to all of them, in their summer break, and one of the things Alexis said to me, and I also felt the same about it, was that he has no problem playing as a 6. He did quite well the season before, but he prefers to play with a 6 behind him, and I think that gets the best out of him. That's also why we were interested in signing a number 6. But Ryan came back 1 or 2 days earlier. I was hoping for more, but he came back 1 or 2 days earlier, and that way he could play the Manchester United game in that position, and I immediately liked it because he was so comfortable on the ball. I think if we look back, if you watch this game back, there's one moment where we played the ball towards him and there was someone who tried to press him and he just used his body, and the player didn't see him back for a few seconds, the one that pressed him. So I immediately felt that would be a good asset to have, and then we had to find out during the first games in the season if he was defensively strong enough, but he definitely was, and I think he's now one of the players that has the most interceptions and all these kind of things. That's also a team dynamic, because if the front three don't work enough, it's hard for a number 6 to win a ball back, but he's having all the ingredients to play in that position really well. Maybe really what he could add to his game is maybe 1 or 2 touch play and find even more players in between the lines. Maybe he can take Virgil as an example, because Virgil is for me our best player in that part, finding players in between the lines. But he's done great, Ryan, that's for sure.
Can I lastly ask you to pick out a significant moment or a turning point from this season? I was having a little look through yesterday. You have the weekend where you came from behind to beat Brighton. It was just the same day that Arsenal lost at Newcastle and Man City lost at Bournemouth. Perhaps the win at Man City, which is the weekend that Arsenal lost to West Ham, and they might have expected to close the gap that weekend, and instead the gap grew. But for you, when you look back on why you've done it, how you've done it, what do you look to?
Yeah, I think if there's only one game, then you don't win the league. So there are always a number of games that make the difference for you. But I don't think we needed the confidence, because we knew from the start that we were able to compete, because it isn't like the last few seasons they didn't compete at all. Okay, 2 years ago was number 6, but last season they were number 3, were quite long in the race with City and Arsenal. So it wasn't a surprise to anyone that we were there. But the week that we beat Madrid and City probably gave us that extra push of, because we didn't beat the 2 of them by going to a low block or defending a lot, which we had to do at Man City away. That was just defending a lot and also be a bit lucky, in my opinion. Although we didn't even concede that many chances, but it's not the way I prefer to win a game of football. But a home game, City, Arsenal, we were just so intense that we deserved to win that game in the style we want to play. And that gave us a lot of confidence. And I think it was not long afterwards that we also had this run of games against West Ham away, where we had a big win, Tottenham away, a big win in numbers. So looking back at it, I think maybe that period of time was the most important part of our season. That gave us really that extra push to see we're definitely able to do it.
Would say that you don't get to Kevin De Bruyne's level and be the type of winner he has been over such a long period of time if at this point he didn't think he could still do a good job for a Premier League team.
There's probably nearly every team in the Premier League that would take Kevin De Bruyne. In my eyes, I think he's still one of the best. He'll go down as one of the best midfielders that's ever played in the Premier League. And he's right there. The last 5 or 6 games when they've told him he's not getting a contract, his level's gone to another level. Me and Jay were speaking about it. Come Man City do a U-turn. It's been done many a times. You see players do U-turns. How can you not do a U-turn? Let me tell you, he's available, Kevin De Bruyne. There'll be loads of teams in the Premier League that will want Kevin De Bruyne. He's one of the best to ever grace the pitch at the Etihad and play for Man City. I think he deserves a statue outside that football club. I think he's fantastic. And you see that interview, it looked like it was pure frustration. Like he wants to stay at the football club and the football club don't think they're moving on. And I understand you get to a certain age and Kevin De Bruyne has had injuries, but if Kevin De Bruyne is healthy, fit and healthy, you're going to find it very hard to replace him.
Yeah, I feel for him actually, because he's been a great player, really has been a top player, and it looks sometimes, you know, me and Clinton have been there probably more than Kevin De Bruyne, that's for sure, that clubs don't want you anymore. And they make a decision, they go, you know what, we think we're going to move on. And he's probably sat there and thought, it's been a kick in the teeth, because he's probably never had that. He's never had that feeling. And every player gets that. In the end, eventually, you get that where, you know, it's time to go. And it probably took him a bit by surprise. And he's gone, you know what, I'm not done yet. I'm not finished. And his performances have been fantastic. It's just, they probably look at it and think, is he going to stay fit for what we're paying him? He's on a lot of money. Is he going to stay fit? You know, because, listen, they probably know it. If he's 100% like he's been over the last 4 weeks, of course he's worthy of being at Manchester City. But they need someone who's going to do it for the whole season. And the last couple of seasons, he has picked up injuries, which, you know, have been frustrating for them. So, but I think they might do a U-turn.
Do you think?
As Clinton said, every team in the Premier League would take Kevin De Bruyne. Arsenal should, if he is genuinely going to go, Mikel Arteta knows him, should get straight on the phone and say, come and sign for Arsenal, we'll win the league with you. I'm going to sign a striker, I'm going to have you in midfield, we'll sort it out with you and Odegaard, you know, and they've got Champions League football. I would be straight on the phone, give him whatever he wants, get him in at that team, because he's a winner, he knows how to win, and he's still a top player. It makes a huge difference. So it might be a schoolboy error from Man City letting him go.
The point is, Jamie, and it probably leans into the reason that he's not been offered a new contract at Manchester City, is that you said you take him at Arsenal, give him what he wants. That's not realistic, is it, for someone who turns 34 next month? Who
You'll be getting him for nothing.
But the signing on, I'm sure he'd take a pretty hefty signing on fee.
Yeah, but you're getting him for nothing. You know, Arsenal can pay wages. They you know, over the years, Arsenal have paid big amount of wages. They're, you know, a very rich football club. If you're getting a player of Kevin De Bruyne's stature for a couple of seasons, you know, he's only 33. I know he turns 34, I think, in June or July. You know, if he stays fit and he plays over 60% of the games that you bring him in for, you know, and you manage him and you've got Odegaard and you've got, you know, De Bruyne, and you manage their minutes, don't tell me he can't go and win you a Premier League and be a massive player for your football club. I would pay him 300 grand a week to go and play for Arsenal. 100%. He's a winner. He's one of the best players ever to play in the Premier League. And he's still doing it. He's had 4 weeks, as he said, he's been one of their top performers. Don't tell me he's not still capable of playing at the top level. He is.
How much scope then do you think, Clinton, there is in Premier League clubs to sort of just throw their model out the window? Because particularly under Mikel Arteta, the theme has been buying young players with their whole career ahead of them. That is it on the manager to say, even though he's 34 at the start of the new season, this guy could be the difference, could be the man to help us finally deliver that league title?
Well, I understand when managers say that to certain players. But I'm going to throw in another name who's been fantastic this season, Mohamed Salah. Salah's 33, 34. He just signed a 2-year deal. His numbers are unbelievable. Let me tell you, Kevin De Bruyne has got the same ability as Mohamed Salah. So the only thing with Salah is he stayed fit for the majority of the season. And that is where the question marks and the doubts will be about Kevin De Bruyne. It won't be the doubts of Robert as him as a footballer. Absolutely no chance, because as Jamie just alluded to, he's one of the best to ever do it in the Premier League. And he's right. If someone like Arsenal signed him and they got a centre forward wouldn't have to come to feet. Just go in behind, stay in the box. You know what Kevin De Bruyne is, one of the best balls I've seen in the Premier League, where he whips it around the defence. It's a no-brainer for me. If you can get Kevin De Bruyne fit and healthy, any club would sign him, and you give him what you want for 2 years, and he could be the difference of you winning the Premier League, but it's just staying fit.
It really annoys me that this new modern era of how we got to sign these young potential talents to, maybe we sell them for £80 million. I understand the model, I get it, but you can't beat experience. You can't beat world-class talent. All right, you've got to manage him. Well, manage him then. That's your job. That's the whole point of having a world-class player at your football club. And how many times do we see, we bring in this player and potentially... What about Pepe? Do you remember him at Arsenal? Signed him, potentially going to be the best right winger ever. Where's he gone now? There's so many players that you bring in with this potential model, which is a load of garbage. Like the teams that used to win... Man United used to sign the best player every season. You sign the best player in the Premier League every season, then win the league again. Well, the best players available for free.
I guess one of the prime examples actually would be that Robin van Persie, who went to Manchester United, didn't get too long out of them, but he got one season where he scored a load of goals.
Do you want to win the league? Arsenal want to win the league. And Kevin De Bruyne is leaving Manchester City, supposedly. He's leaving. Mikel Arteta knows him. He knows what he's about. Kevin De Bruyne knows Arteta. If I was them, I would be straight on the phone, begging him to come and sign for Arsenal.
I guess when you are a sporting director, and I take all of what both of you have just said, but sometimes with money and wages, you're playing the percentages, and the smallest word that you said there is maybe the most important, if you can keep him fit.
Yeah.
He started 17 games this season in the Premier League, 8 substitute appearances. The two guys you mentioned there, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah, have started every Premier League game.
Yeah, that's the difference, and that's when you're going to do it, you're going to weigh it up. And clubs nowadays they like to make money, as Jamie said. So I kind of get that. As your sporting director, you've got to do what's best for the football club. But if you want to win a Premier League, then you've got to do what's best for the football club, and you sign the best players and you give the best players what they want. If you think Kevin De Bruyne, and I think personally, and I can guarantee you everyone in the world will think Kevin De Bruyne goes to any club, he improves that football club. And he don't just improve the football club. If you're a youngster that's coming through, you look up to Kevin De Bruyne and you go and lean on him and ask him for advice. You probably the best person to probably go and ask is someone like a Phil Foden, who probably learned from De Bruyne and David Silva when they were there. It's still good to have experienced players in the building, and a top experienced player like Kevin De Bruyne. No brainer. It'd be sad if he doesn't play in the Premier League, because we miss out on him. We want to see the best players in the Premier League. No brainer for someone to go and sign Kevin De Bruyne. And you know what? He might not even want the 300 grand a week. He's made so much money in his career. Do you know what I mean? And he could probably go and get somewhere. You could give him 200 grand a week. I don't think he's struggling on 200 grand. Do you?
He'd probably get by, yeah. Is there any way? I mean, Arsenal is the one you suggested, but do you see any other club? Do you think in his mind it has to be a club that's playing Champions League football next year?
Yeah. I mean, what would be the point? Otherwise, you might as well go to the MLS. You might as well go somewhere else and have, do what Messi's doing, But for me, it seems to me that he wants to stay in the Premier League. He still feels like he wants to be at the top. Mohamed Salah, all this talk about him going to Saudi, signs a 2-year deal at Liverpool. That's the mentality of these players. The big boys want to stay in the Premier League and produce week in, week out. And I think Kevin De Bruyne is the same. So I think, look, Arsenal's obviously the one that I would look at, because they want to win the Premier League. But anyone would take him, Anyone should try and get hold of him. I'd love him at Tottenham. We can't afford him. But, you're talking of teams that can afford him. Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool. It could go anywhere.
Just a final word on him, Clinton, that if City aren't to perform a U-turn, it might well even still have worked in their favour. That as we've sort of touched on, it's clearly wound him up enough to maybe get an extra gear in his performance, and it might be just enough his goals and his contribution to get City over the line and get them into the Champions League.
Well, they always say when players are coming to the end of the contract, their game to a different level. I'm not saying that's what Kevin De Bruyne is doing, but
what you used to do.
100%. I'm not going to lie, but I wasn't
starting from quite a low level, to be fair.
Starting at a lower level, not that higher level. But what I would say is, like, as I say, he's always maintained them kind of high levels. The only thing with Kevin De Bruyne is he has to stay fit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest question mark. And probably that's the only reason why Man City have made that decision, because there's no other reason why you wouldn't give Kevin De Bruyne a new contract. I hope there is a U-turn, and I hope he is playing Premier League football, because we want to see the best players in the Premier League.
What's your headline about how they won?
Pretty good, impressive. Graham Rousseau talked about it. The attacking play of Chelsea was better. I feel like now all their front players are fit and healthy and playing well. When that's the case, they're really, really good. We've got to remember here, this is the youngest team, as John Champion said, in the Premier League. So the owners and the directors of football are trying to build, never been done before really this way, a team to be champions for a decade. Best young players, bring them together. They'll realise that there's pockets of the team that need improving. They won't get it right straight away, which is correct. Possibly need a new striker, definitely need a new goalkeeper. But when everybody's fit, it's young, it's energetic, you know, that's a big win. And, you know, they're on the right path.
Urgency is certainly recognizable at the beginning and also at the end there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think in the second half, they continued that kind of the first half. They didn't dominate the football, but they dominated the energy portion of the game. I thought that was really good. They get the second goal naturally, and you know this as a footballer, you kind of come off the gas, you feel like job's done, you have to manage it. But Liverpool, to their credit, kind of came out of the stalls. They were on top of the game. But Chelsea had enough with the home crowd and with their energy. I still thought their energy was much higher to then take back over domination of the game, and they got the goal at the end. Look, they also got really good performances. I think they're powerful. When Caicedo plays at right back, they're very powerful.
Moving into midfield.
Moving into midfield,
really
his tackling, his running. So couple that allows, when he gets in midfield, Enzo to push on. I thought Neto was really lively, and of course Cole Palmer, not just the goal. The goal's great, it's important, but the positions he picked up. He stopped kind of standing with his back to goal in the pocket, drifted out to that right side where he's much more comfortable.
I mean, you know, without being too cynical, good time to play Liverpool.
Right.
It's a good time to play Liverpool. You see that on the schedule, Liverpool at home, that's a difficult, big game. Subs were made in the second half of Liverpool. They had a bit of a rally up, they scored. Then there's a sense of panic, not panic, but a little bit of concern around the Chelsea camp. And then the penalty, of course, puts it all to bed. That's kind of an important goal for Cole Palmer. I know it's a penalty, the first goal since January, I think it is. So, you know, it's all coming together. And I'm pleased because I like to see something different done in the Premier League. In Chelsea, and I know they've spent a ton of money and the fans want instant kind of success and they want the wins and they want the finished product in terms of players that they signed. This is different. And there's going to have to be patience needed. Even the two players there, Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke, just kind of giggling at the screen watching the replay. That's what they are. They're like young kids, excitable young kids that are on this adventure that I hope they get time to mature and hopefully be successful.
It's good to see because we also think with like Todd Bowling with Chelsea, when they brought all the young players in, it's like, what are you doing? And no one could quite understand it. The length of the contracts, and this is a bit silly and new, but now they kept everything was quiet, kept it in camp, and now we're starting to see like, okay, maybe this was the idea. And also, by the way, they brilliantly navigated this game because they have Newcastle next.
Yeah, next Sunday.
Head to head.
Big
that's
game.
huge.
Away at St James's Park.
It's huge. And, yeah, it's great. The fact that they have the momentum, I think for both teams, even a draw next week helps both of them.
It's still not done and dusted. I mean, I you know, a week ago, this is why this is going to change every week. I'm not sure Chelsea are going to do it. They've got difficult games coming up. Others have got easier schedules, but that's a big win for Chelsea. And to get them, if they can get in the Champions League, that's so big for the players, of learning, the money, the finances, everything else. But work to do.
Chelsea knocks off the champs at home at Stamford Bridge, 3-1. The final, we go right back out there to the booth. Welcome back in the gentlemen that called it for you, John and Graham. Really a double victory for the home side today. They win 3-1 and get the 3 points today when Newcastle, who they're in direct competition with, they only pick up one, so quite an afternoon there for Chelsea.
Absolutely. You could say Chelsea retaining sovereignty over their Champions League chances. You see what we did there.
Very good link.
Yes, it's doubly important, but even more important is next week's game. And you look at Chelsea now, and it's those two away games, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, that effectively are going to decide an awful lot.
Certainly are, and we spoke about it in commentary. The guys have just reflected on some similar points there in the studio about, I just feel that if Chelsea play positively, play with energy, embrace the sort of creative side of the game as they had right up to Christmas, they can cause every team they come up against a huge amount of problems. And if they've got that backbone of Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Lavia, who is really important in that midfield as a sort of a cornerstone of discipline, plus the sort of defensive unit, I think they could finish the season really strongly, given that they've got through this blip that they had sort of in that second half of the season.
And such a boost that Cole Palmer looked like a player again.
He did, because again, to that point, he thrives when he's given the opportunity to go and make things happen. So it's all about mindset, I think, with this Chelsea team. It's up to Enzo Maresca, the coach, to, I think, really give them the freedom to go and play and express themselves. And they've got a simple target, and that's to win the next 3 games. He said that he wants 6 out of the last 8 to win 6 out of the last 8 games, and they've got 3 more matches now where I think if they play with freedom, I think they'll score a lot of goals and they could be the team that that clinch that 4th or 5th Champions League place.
And briefly, as the chaps alluded to in the studio there, they were fortunate to face Liverpool today.
Yeah, definitely. Liverpool were half the side that we've seen throughout the season, and you can allow them for not quite being able to get themselves up to that standard. 6 changes in the team, definitely a hangover in every sense of the word in the way they played today. But they'll be disappointed because I think that they showed some spirit, but in sporadic sort of moments of the game, and couldn't maintain that incredible form that they've shown, and now that's their 3rd loss as opposed to their 2nd loss.
Yes, their fans were terrific. I mean, they were singing songs about the champions all the way through.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe.